Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, you need to be stocking up on food. I hope that this video makes it out to someone that's new to our community, and even more so to someone that is new to preparedness, so that you understand how crucial it is that we need to stock up on food as much as we can. Right? I've always gone by that we need at least a 1-year supply of foods that we normally eat every day. If you think about it, any food that you buy at the store, with the exception of like fresh produce and meats that are, raw and ready to eat, not like freeze-dried meats and stuff like that, but foods that you buy at the store every day, pasta, rice, beans, canned foods, canned meats, canned vegetables, etc., 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 usually they have at least a 1-year best buy date. I almost said expiration date, but best buy date. So how difficult would it be for you to have a 1-year supply of the foods that you eat on a regular basis, on a rotational supply in your pantry? Right? So it's not something that's impossible to do, ladies and gentlemen. And having that food in your pantry is not only security against if something happens to the food supply, but think about it as an investment as well. If you take a look at the food that you have in your pantry now, and you take a look at something that's 1 year old or older from when you first purchased it, take a look at the price of when you purchased it and take a look at the price now. It's probably going to be a lot more expensive in nominal value now than it was then when you purchased it a year or more ago. So it's only smart through a financial perspective, but it's even smarter to do for a security perspective to make sure that your family has the food that they need. Because this war that we have on fuels, right? Because fuel is food. Right? Without fuel, we don't have any food. We can't feed the tractors that farm. We can't make the fertilizers. Right? With this war on fuel and with this war on food, and I'll show you here in a minute how the war on food has been escalating around the world, ladies and gentlemen. It's not only inflation that is making food, unattainable to people. It's also that food is going to become more scarce, and it is doing so right now, right under our noses. And you don't hear this on the mainstream media because they don't want you to go out there and get a 1-year supply. Although all of the people that are in the know, all of the 1%ers that know what's coming down the line, I guarantee you they have their supply of food. And I would say that it's probably a lot more than 1 year.
With rising inflation, bank failures, and massive layoffs across multiple sectors, the future of the economy remains uncertain. It's no wonder the central banks have been getting prepared by stockpiling gold. At ITM Trading, we have spent over 27 years building a team of seasoned researchers and analysts who can help you prepare for any financial crisis. Our experts are ready to provide you with proven strategies to safeguard your wealth and assets in the event of an economic downturn or currency reset, which is frankly inevitable. Don't wait until it's too late. Schedule your free gold and silver strategy call by clicking on the link in the description below.
Have you ever heard that if you control the food, you control the people? And do you think that that's true, ladies and gentlemen? If you don't think that's true, just take a look at history. There's a lot of examples throughout history where the people were starved in order so that they can be controlled by their overlords. You will own nothing, and no, you will not be happy, but you will be starving. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think that we can argue with this next statement here. If there's anything that the health crisis has taught us, is that governments are not working for the people. Right? And all you have to do is open your eyes and see what's going on. To the contrary, governments are following the script of the WEF's Great Reset, which is tied to the climate change and Green New Deal policies pushed by the United States, Europe, and some other countries, as well as the United Nations Climate Agenda and Net Zero Initiative. Let me go ahead and take a real sidestep real quick. For those of you that think that carbon dioxide or CO2 is the death of the world, we need CO2 to live. Plant life would not be sustained with CO2 levels at less than 180 ppm, parts per million. Right now, the CO2 levels in our atmosphere are at about 440 ppm or so, roughly. So in order for plants to grow at their optimal level, they need about 3 times more CO2 than what we currently have in our atmosphere. So do you think that the less CO2, the better it is for food production? Or do you think that the more, the better it is for food production? They're trying to get, what is it? Net zero, ladies and gentlemen? What do you think that means to humanity and to life in general? Well, what that means is that some oligarchs, some crazy people out there that think that they can rule the world by controlling the food supply and controlling how we get our food, ladies and gentlemen, they're going to go ahead and jeopardize that food security just to lower emissions. But what is that going to do to lower emissions? What's it really going to do? What has it done? It hasn't done anything. I've explained on very many previous videos that all of the money that these people have taken from humanity, all of the money, remember what money is. Money is your time. Money is the time that you spent in order to do something. That's what money is. So when someone takes away your money through taxation or through regulations or through laws, when they take away your money through those things, right, through those vehicles, what they're doing is they're taking away your time, your freedom, right? So all of this money that they've taken away for all of these decades to fight climate change, what has it resulted in? It has resulted in a world, right, in a world as a whole, all right, that uses more oil now than when it started. Right now, the world as a whole in 2022 uses about 20% or 25% more oil all over the world than when they started this nonsense back in the mid-1990s. So where has all that money gone? What good has it done? Or maybe they're using that money for something else. Plans to compromise food security and destroy property rights are well underway in many countries around the globe. Take, for instance, the Netherlands, a tiny country in terms of land and population, is the second largest food exporter in the world. The Netherlands, I've talked about before, the Dutch, they are like the heroes of farming. They are like the superstars of farming. Very small nation, but the second largest food exporter in the world, ladies and gentlemen. And yet, this is all coming soon to an end due to governmental policies that effectively blame them for high greenhouse emissions, despite the nation contributing only 5.2% of all of the EU emissions. The second best exporter of food in the world, and they're shutting them down. During a time in history where the UN's World Food Program says, hey, we have people starving and it's going to double. You know, by the end of 2024, I think they said there's going to be over 1 billion people starving. Unfortunately, the Dutch government is not the only one that is doing this to their farmers. Many countries like Canada, Germany, Sri Lanka, and we've heard about what happened in Sri Lanka, are following a similar agenda to undermine the agricultural sector by reducing nitrogen in an environment by at least 30%. They couldn't keep the narrative that it's CO2. Now they have to go to something else. You see, ladies and gentlemen, CO2, for those of you that don't know, only makes up about 0.04. So 0.04% of the gases in the atmosphere. People are waking up to that. They're like, how in the world can a gas that contributes 0.04% of the gases in the atmosphere be causing this much ruckus? So now they have to go to another gas, a gas that sustains life, nitrogen. Yes, nitrogen is about 75 to 80% of the gas in the atmosphere by volume. So if they go to nitrogen, they're like, hey, wait a minute, look at all this nitrogen. We have to get rid of this nitrogen. We can't do this. But what the average Joe on the street doesn't know is that nitrogen is life. Nitrogen feeds plants, just like CO2 feeds plants. And but cutting it down by 30% is going to end up cutting the production of food, I would say, by at least 30%, if not more. Joshua Phillips, an investigative reporter and recognized expert on asymmetrical hybrid warfare, says nitrogen reduction policies and chemical fertilizer trends in the majority of countries around the world will lead to food shortages, like what happened in Sri Lanka recently. For those of you that don't know what happened in Sri Lanka, they got a new president. The president said overnight, we are turning over to 100% pure organic foods in this country. We're no longer going to use any kind of fertilizers whatsoever. What do you think happened? Get ready to be surprised. Whoa, their farming collapsed. They started producing a lot less food than what they could produce before. They couldn't export anything. They had to start importing foods. They went broke and their government collapsed. They kicked their government out by force, ladies and gentlemen. That is what happens when a country goes hungry because of the policies that they allow their governments to pass in their name. The president that passed those policies, I don't remember his name, but the president that passed those policies, he wasn't starving, ladies and gentlemen. He still had fuel in his vehicle. The little bit of money that that country did have left for imports, he was able to dip into first. It was the people that suffered, not the government. And this is what they want to do worldwide. It's like a huge Hunger Games. It's really like it is. The global warming alarmists claim nitrous oxide is a greenhouse gas, and we must stop meat production to reduce it. And as I've stated previously, this is just another scam. And that's all it is. In the United States, farmers already cannot find enough chemical nitrogen fertilizer to grow their crops. The WEF recommendation to Build Back Better has been adopted in the United States as a climate change policy, and that is going to be our end. It will be our end. We are in a fourth turning, ladies and gentlemen. We are in the turning of crises, and we will see it in our lifetime, so you must prepare now. Right? I've been saying this for years, but the thing that people don't understand is that only because you've been putting out a message for years doesn't mean it's going to happen that day or even that year. Shouldn't you feel lucky that you've been hearing this message not only from me, but from a lot of other people, not only preppers, but other channels and other people that don't consider themselves prepper, don't have prepper by their name, telling you get ready, get ready, get ready, year after year after year. Because the day that it actually occurs where you will need those preps, if you are not prepared, then you will not be able to prepare. So get prepared now. It's not hard to do. The U.S. Department of Agriculture recently released a disturbing report that essentially warns the American public about inevitable food shortages, and we're going to go over that real quickly. Ladies and gentlemen, we will go over this part very briefly. The USDA reported that corn production in 2022 was estimated at 13.7 billion bushels, which is down 9% from the 2021 estimate. All right. The area harvested for grain was estimated at 79.2 million acres, down 7% from the 2021 estimate. So that's not good. And that's not even talking about the health of the corn. How much or what percentage of that corn that they actually harvest is good for human consumption, right? So they don't even talk about that right here. But just the planting and the harvesting is a lot less than what they had predicted. Sorghum grain production in 22 was estimated at 188 million bushels, down 58% from 2021. Area harvested for grain was estimated at 4.57 million acres, down 30% from 2021. Grain yield was estimated at 41.1 bushels per acre, down 27.9 bushels. Wow, from 2021. Down almost 30 bushels from 2021. Incredible. Rice production, ladies and gentlemen. We've talked about rice here in the past. In 2022, total 160 million metric tons, down 16%. 16% from 2021 totals. And the area harvested at 2.17 million acres was down 13% from the previous crop year. Right? The average yield for all United States rice was estimated at 73.83 pounds per acre, down 326 pounds per acre from 2021, where they averaged a total of roughly 7,700 pounds per acre. And this is the last one that I'm going to go over, ladies and gentlemen. Here's what's really behind the Global Reset and Sustainable Development Agenda 2030. And what you have to understand and remember is this, is that all of these things that they, the overlords, right, your WEF, your BIS, all right, all of these governments, Western governments especially, but also pretty much all governments, what they want to do is they want to impose these restrictions on you. But you better believe that they're not doing it as well. We can see it now with our eyes, where they tell us, hey, don't drive so much, but they're flying their planes that eat up more or that emit more CO2 than 500 average households emit in a year. Right? Captive in the so-called 15-minute cities, you will eat bugs and no meat. Immerse in the metaverse and never-ending feed of pharmaceuticals. Man, it sounds like the way things are now, with the exception of the 15-minute cities. And all that by force, ladies and gentlemen. And what do they mean by force? Not that there's going to be a thug right there next to you making you do it, but that if you don't do it, you're not going to get your UBI, Universal Basic Income, or that your CBDC, Centrally Banked Digital Currency, that they will issue you here in the future, will be cut off. And you'll be cut off from being able to trade freely in society, or be able to trade, not necessarily freely. And here they tell us, like they've been telling us for years, energy is dirty. as we use less and they use more, ladies and gentlemen. Meat is dirty. Believe it or not, meat is dirty, ladies and gentlemen. The Irish are considering culling 200,000 head of cattle because they fart. This will come to a city near you. Upcoming steak prohibition. German authorities have advised residents of Germany to consume no more than 10 grams of meat per day, which comes out to be about 1/3 of an ounce of meat per day, ladies and gentlemen. So roughly about 10 ounces of meat per month. The financial consideration that need to be made in order to meet idiotic green energy targets means that all things that currently sustain life, i.e. energy and food being at the top of the list, become uneconomical and are shut down. Has anybody heard the word inflation? I bet you that everyone in the United States and all Western worlds, probably the world as a whole actually, knows what inflation means if they didn't know what it meant 2 years ago. They definitely know what it means. Man, I talked to my brother who lives in the Dominican Republic, and man, you think we have it bad here as far as inflation goes? Oh my goodness. He tells me the prices of some of the things that they pay over there. Their eggs went up also. You would think that in a small country like the Dominican Republic that egg prices would be really, really cheap. Man, incredible. The price of chicken, my brother said, like in 2 or 3 years went up like 5 times. But anyways, I digress. More lies regarding the renewable energy transition. And what they don't tell you, ladies and gentlemen, is that we will never be able to power the world with windmills and solar panels. I love solar panels. I'm actually doing an experiment right now on solar panels that's taken a couple of weeks. And that video will be coming up soon here in the next week or two. But I love solar panels. I even have a small wind turbine that I really need to get hooked up. Right? But it's not going to power the entire world. It's impossible. We don't have the resources in order to do that here on Earth. And if we did, it would take so many years in order to be able to mine them out and then be able to use those resources to make the solar panels. Like, for example, we don't have enough silver on Earth. Even the unmined silver that we have in the crust of the Earth that hasn't been mined yet, still not enough to produce all of the solar panels that we need in order to power the Earth. So it's impossible. And here they say that we need an additional 330 mines in the next 12 years to feed battery demand, according to the person who wrote this article. So in the next 12 years, we would need an additional 330 mines just to feed the demand just for batteries, ladies and gentlemen, nothing else. And here they point out that the UN and Washington, D.C. have no real intent for the peasants to continue their current standard of living. How many times have I told you all this? That the plan is to bring down our standard of living. While they get to fly around more, you only get to fly once every 3 years. While they get to eat their ribeye steaks and their porterhouse, you get to eat the bugs that they let you eat. That is the plan, and it's been the plan forever. I love it when people say, how do you know that this has been planned out? Just take a look at history. It's not very hard to figure out, ladies and gentlemen. Take a look at history and take a look at all of the things that have been going on for all of the years only that you've been on this earth. Don't even go before that. Just go to the years that you've been on this earth. And take a look at it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not hard to figure out. That is their plan, and it is currently under implementation. It is surprisingly successful, they say. The pushback is rather mediocre, and that is more easily understood by the fourth turning. Imagine that. They're talking about the fourth turning here, something that I've talked about so many times and tried to explain to you all, that this is going to happen no matter what, and that's why you have to prepare. There's no stopping what's going to happen, and it's going to get worse. Excuse me. And it's going to get worse before it gets better, right? By and large, the West is in a fourth turning. People are fat, well-fed, lazy, physically and intellectually. Unprepared to sacrifice their relative comforts, they will be largely sacrificed. The next generation will have to come out stronger. They won't have a choice. This may happen in some places. We can certainly hope so. What is also possible and not discussed much is that a long dark age could take hold. Certainly it's happened before. Ladies and gentlemen, I've been saying that before things get better, they will get worse. And it's not going to be for a month. It's not going to be for 2 years. It's going to be for years. We are going to have not a year. We're going to have years, probably close to a decade of crisis after crisis after crisis. We are in the fourth turning of this human experience, of this generational human experience. And there's nothing stopping what's coming. The only thing that you can do is prepare. Yes, we will have to fight back, and it always happens. Humanity always reaches a boiling point or a tipping point where they say we've had enough. Unfortunately, right now it's not it. Many people are saying we've had enough, but right now it's not it, because it takes a lot of people, a large percentage of the people, to say, I'm done, I've had enough, before change really happens. And we have years left before we actually turn into the new turning, which will be the season of spring, and things will be good. But you need to prepare for what's coming now. I probably made this video about 1,000 hours long, and for that, ladies and gentlemen, if you are still here, you're awesome. Thank you very much for your support. God bless every one of you. I hope that you've had a great week. We do not have a live stream today, but let's go ahead and do a quick safety brief. Be safe, ladies and gentlemen. You worked all week long. I'm sure that you deserve a break and that you want to have a little bit of fun. And if you want to drink, man, drink away. All right, in moderation, of course, but don't drive. All right, make it back home safe, and don't destroy your life or someone else's life and lives just so that you can have a little bit of fun and act irresponsibly, and then your life is over for a few minutes of fun. All right, just be safe. If you're gonna drink, don't drive. If you're gonna drink, get a designated driver. Get enough money for a cab or an Uber. Having said that, have a great rest of your day. God bless every one of you. God bless America. I'm Alaska Prepper. I'm out.